Hi, and welcome back to the joy of tennis teaching. I always love hearing from people, especially ones that I didn't know were enjoying this channel. This past week, I had a great conversation with Steve Halverson, with Lee DeYoung, and I got a nice email or YouTube comment from Leilani McGee. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, and it's great to know that you guys are enjoying some of the content that I've been putting out. Today, I'm going to give you part two of the group tennis teaching. In part one, we talked about the mechanics of teaching a good group lesson. What are the parts that you have to do no matter what? But today we're going to talk about the content. And the history of this session comes down to something that we called drill sets. And drill sets probably became my favorite class that I ever did in all the years that I ran the PBI training programs. And drill sets came out of my own exploration of how to know drills, how to do it. When I joined PBI, I was coming out of public parks teaching during the unbelievable boom of the early 1970s tennis boom. And I used to teach group classes with 30 and 35 people on a court. And it was ridiculous. You know, the people, I just had them stand there and mimic strokes was pretty much all we did. I did a little bit of private coaching, but I didn't want to do more coaching than I was qualified for. And and I did a little bit of teaching in junior programs and clubs in exchange for court time and the ability to practice when I was a young player and a high school player and college player. So when I joined PBI, I really had very little experience teaching groups of 4 people on a court doing real drills, live ball drills. And I used to rack my brains to try to remember all these drills. I'd write down drills, and I would really be paranoid about being able to remember enough drills to teach. But I was lucky that I ended up doing a bunch of group teaching camps and environments where I was teaching next to some experienced PBI professionals with Peter Burwash roaming the courts and dropping into your court and moving your drills along and showing you like better drills to do. And I really became fascinated with how do these guys run such perfect courts that just flowed. I've mentioned before in this that the majority of my training program was watching Peter Burwash teach 8 people on 2 courts for 3 hours. And it was amazing how smoothly those classes progressed, how it just morphed from one drill into another, into another. And I was always blown away by Peter's ability to pick just the right drill to move the class forward. Well, over the years, watching and observing and asking questions, I discovered something. And the really great PBI teachers, the Peter Burwashes and the Rob Smiths of the world, when they did group coaching, they didn't have drills. What they had was a starting point. They started with what I came to call a drill set. They started with players in positions on the court, and then they would allow the drill to start, and then they would tweak it, just change the drill ever so slightly, and it would create an entirely new drill. And that became the answer. I really discovered, and I watched so many times Peter and Rob and other great coaches do this, where I discovered, hey, it's not about learning a bunch of drills and memorizing drills. It's about learning certain drill sets, certain positions that you can line players up in, and then they would go from there and tweak it. And like I said, this became one of my very favorite training program classes to do, and we would do it on court. So it's going to be a little bit limited here to not do it on court. But what I want you to imagine is, imagine you have 4 players and you've got them at the service line, and you're going to do a little ground stroke mini tennis warm up. So you start off with the players 2 rallies hitting down the line. They're just rallying back and forth, not much instruction here. You're just letting them get a feel for the ball. You're evaluating how well they handle minimum potential. Do they take too big a swing? Whatever is going on there. Let's say they're doing very well at this drill. How would you tweak it? What would be the smallest change you could make to create a new drill? And I always used to use the phrase with the trainees. I'd say, pick the low-hanging fruit. So an obvious change would be have them hit cross court. So now by hitting cross court, we're able to discuss the idea of changing the point of contact to change the direction of the ball. During this time, you could also emphasize the ready position with the left hand. You could also emphasize the squeezing the bottom 3 fingers. You could really focus in on any part of the stroke that you wanted to teach while keeping the drill very simple. So let's progress rapidly here and see how many drills we can do with just a quick change. So we're down the line and it's going well. Now we do cross court and it's going well. Now we decide to change it and everybody must hit forehands. So forehands down the line, then forehands cross court. So that's up to 4 drills. Now we have the players on the south side of the court doing forehands down the line, and the players on the north side of the court doing forehands cross court. So now we're changing the direction of the ball. So now that's drill number 5. We reverse it, the south and north sides doing the opposite down the line and cross court. That's drill number 6. We can have them do one side doing forehands, one side doing backhands. That's drill number 7 and 8, if we have all the players try all the variations. You can see what I'm getting at here is by making one small tweak and either the direction of the shot or the type of stroke that you're hitting or the spin. You could have the players on one side doing backspin, or all the players doing backspin, then all the players doing topspin, then players on one side doing backspin. It becomes a multiplying effect. Each time we do a little bit different drill, we've created 1, 2, 3, 4 different drills. And sometimes coaches have said to me, well, you're not really doing a different drill. You're doing the same drill with a different tweak. But in the mind of the student, it's a completely different exercise. And you might do a tweak where the students suddenly start having trouble. Maybe you've advanced too much. Maybe you're having one side hit down the line and the other side's hitting cross court, and you haven't discussed triple vision yet, and they're overhitting and the balls are colliding, or they're having a great deal of trouble with it. Back off, go backwards one tweak, and then you'll be able to develop the exercise that you're trying to develop. So this was a great deal of fun to teach trainees on court. We would start off doing mini tennis because it's easy and you can do just a limitless amount of variations. You know, you can keep changing and doing different variations. Then we would move back and do ground strokes with a drill set of, again, each player in a corner, starting off down the line, then doing cross court, then doing one stroke or the other stroke, then doing focusing on deeper than the service line, then counting. You could have competitions between two pairs of players. The limits to your drills are only limited by your imagination and doing tweaks. But I can't emphasize this enough. You want to try to find the simplest tweak possible. What's the smallest thing you could change that would force the students to have to do something differently? Because every time the students are doing something differently, they're adding to their knowledge base, they're adding to their understanding of what's going on with the stroke. So you can see how these drill sets could be very, very valuable. And once we got through the big ones, the mini tennis and the ground strokes with 4 in the corner, then we would start doing variable drill sets. Like, let's say we're working with a group where they're not quite skillful enough yet to do live ball drills. Maybe we would do a drill set with 2 baskets at the center tee, 2 players at the baseline. The other 2 players are tossing the ball as coaches. That's a great drill set. When you do a drill set like this, make sure that you focus on the coaches first. Give them something to do. Make sure that they don't toss the ball until the players are in a ready position. Make sure they're looking for a finishing checkpoint. Make sure they're checking to see that the ball goes in the right target area. And they could toss the ball to the side and the players move out and they're hitting the ball down the line. So what would be a tweak to this drill? Don't grab the cross-court low-hanging fruit, because this drill, it's not safe to hit it cross-court. These students will kill the tossers, and it's a very unsafe drill. So this drill would be everything down the line. But you can still do depth, spin, variation of stroke, height of the ball over the net, even power. You know, all kinds of things can be done with this drill set. And then each time you'd rotate the hitters and the tossers. And, you know, it's again, a drill that you can do so many different variations that you're really a unlimited number of drills that you can do. Some of my personal favorite drill sets are when I'm teaching the volley. I always like to you can do volleys with all 4 players at the net. It's very similar to a mini tennis or a ground stroke where you're focusing on maybe the catch concept or everything's going. But I like to do drill sets for volleys with 2 players at the baseline and 2 players at the net, because I feel that the players at the net are getting a more realistic ball at that point. And you can, again, do all kinds of amazing variations. The baseline player's job can be just to hit it at the net person every time. And the volleyers can be working on hitting the ball deep and cross court to their feeder, and then short angle cross court. So they're learning to change the direction and depth of their volleys. You can make this as competitive as you want. And it's oftentimes a very high energy, very good drill. I also like to do this drill a lot if I have 5 or 6 players on the court. If you have more than the 4, which is the optimum, you can still do some pretty great drill sets as long as you keep in mind 2 things. You want it to be active and you want it to be safe. A third thing is, and you want it to be realistic as well. You want the hitting to be as realistic as possible. So the drill set concept can lead you into a lot of great areas where you have that feeling of getting the players to understand where the ball is going, and you really want to give them a feeling of that development. I know at the end of those 3-hour training programs that I would watch Peter teach the 8 people on 2 courts, the most common comment of the students coming off the court was, "Oh my God, that he makes me do things that I didn't think I could possibly do." And I think that was the genius of Peter's little tweaks, because most of us, especially in the early days of teaching, we jump too far. I know when I teach drill sets to new coaches, one of the first things they'll do is they say, "Okay, ground strokes, yes, they're rallying it back and forth down the line. Now we'll have them run back and touch the fence and come up, spin in 360 degrees, and hit 1 topspin, 1 hand backhand, and 1 underspin forehand." Way too much, I mean, if you can't simply explain the drill, you've got too many parts to it. You should be able to tell the students, okay, we're doing exactly what we were just doing, except now the ball must go deeper than the service line, go cross court, only forehands. 1, 2, 3 words to describe the next stage in the drill set. So oftentimes I get asked, well, what do you do when you're teaching the serve? Well, teaching the serve is pretty easy, actually. With a group of 4 players, the most common drill set is to line the 4 players up along the baseline with enough space so that they're not making it dangerous, and hopefully you have enough balls that they can go back to a basket, which is their particular basket for balls, or if you have one big basket, they can change positions to get the experience. But again, the drill set should focus on what they're doing. Oftentimes, when I would be teaching a serve clinic, I would start with the drill set of the 4 players at the baseline, and I would just let them warm up the serve. I was just basically watching to observe what their serve was like. Then the next stage, I might say, okay, everything must go over the net. It doesn't matter how deep you hit it, but it must go over the net. And I would add an incentive. If the ball went into the net, you had to sprint around to the other side of the court and pick up 4 balls and bring them back to add them back into the basket. Well, it became clear pretty quickly that nobody liked the sprinting, so everybody started hitting up on the ball, which was the fundamental that I wanted to teach, but I could teach it without even saying it. We would stop after a little while once everybody was consistently hitting the ball deep over the net, and then we would explain that this was an example of hitting up, and that was stage 1 of a great serve, is learning to hit up. Then we would add the snap down part of the serve, getting them to understand that now you needed to use your hand and wrist action to create the spin on the ball that would create the arc to bring it down and in. You could do all kinds of things with this. Eventually we would get to target serving. Then we could do the pressure relay race serving. all of these drill sets progressed one to another to another. And it became second nature to me over the years. Once I figured out how those great teachers were doing this, I think I became pretty darn good at teaching clinics and teaching big groups or group coaching, just because I learned the secret was to focus on the students and make those little tiny tweaks. So that's the idea of drill sets. I hope it makes some sense to you. Please send me any questions. I'm running out of gas, so I am going to end up here. You can imagine when we did this on court, it was a 2 to 3 hour training class because we would go through drill sets on every combination of strokes we could think of. So I've given you just a real speed version of the idea of drill sets. I opened this video thanking some people for reaching out and telling me that they've enjoyed seeing these videos. And I don't want to get emotional, but I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to be able to do this. My health issues are progressing. Like right now, I can barely see the screen. My eye doctor, when I went last week for the shots with the medication in the back of my eyes, I told him I wasn't feeling like it was helping as much. And when they did the test where they take a picture of the back of the eye, he said, yeah, the condition had gotten worse. So they're going to continue with this medication for a short time. But, and then in a few weeks to a month, they're going to try a new medication. So I'm hopeful I'll be able to do that. But for those of you who've reached out to me with messages and with emails, I'm thinking of you, Gift Searles. You sent me an email address, and you asked me to if I got your message, and I did, but I'm really having a lot of trouble typing and doing emails and just dealing with any kind of written communication. So I love doing these videos, and I'm going to do my best to continue. But please be patient with me if I don't answer you right away when you give me comments or feedback. I appreciate it, and I love answering it, and I would love to communicate even more, but it's becoming difficult. So anyway, that's it for today for the joy of tennis teaching. I hope the drill set idea was useful to you, and I hope you'll keep trying to spread the word about this channel. I've gotten some nice comments from people that I haven't met, and I hope this is useful to some of you. Take care.